In today's video, we will learn how to read out the directions from a joystick with the use of an Arduino Uno, and that's coming up right after the intro. Hello world, my name is Asali, meaning basic in the language Hausa. Today we'll learn how to read out joystick values with an Arduino Uno so that we will be able to control other devices with a joystick. There will be three values we'll be receiving. The first one is the SW state, which will be a boolean and tell us whether we press the button on the joystick or not. The next two are position X and Y, which will be used to know in what direction our joystick is pushed towards. If you look at the schematic, you can see that there are only 5 wires that have to be hooked up. The 5 volts and ground pins, and of course the X, Y and SW pins. Once you have hooked up the joystick to the Arduino Uno, let's head right into the code. It's fairly easy, but let's start out by defining our pins according to the schematic like so. Next up, we're gonna need 2 integers for our X and Y position, and a boolean for our SW state. And again, the SW state will hold the value of the joystick button whether it has been pressed or not. Now, let's move on to our setup and start by defining our baud rate like normal. Next up, we will define the pin modes of our X, Y and SW pins to of course input and input pull-up. Next up is our void loop. Let's read out the analog values from out our X and Y pin and insert it into our X and Y position integer. After we filled these two, we want to do the same with our SW state, but since there are only 2 states for this button, we will want to make it a digital read like so. Now that we have our data, let's read out all 3 with a print, and add in a delay of 100. Now if we run the program, you will soon come to realize the X and Y position are kind of odd. Well, it's actually kind of obvious why it's reading out the values like this, since the joystick works like 2 potentiometers, but that's for another time. The joystick at this moment is reading out around 512 for both X and Y when not touched, and when pushed to the bottom left corner we get 0 for both, and to the upper right corner we get 1023 for both, but that's not how we want to read out our values. When our joystick is in the middle, we actually want our number to be 0 like on a X and Y diagram. Luckily, we can do this by adding in a small calculation, but first let's create 2 more integers for them to add to. Now for the calculation inside our void loop, but after the readouts. And of course don't forget to change the printed line from X and Y position to X and Y map. This calculation will make sure that the X and Y position will always be around 0 if stationary when reading out the pins. Now let's try to run this again, and great! Things are looking wonderful, but to make this read more easy, let's do a check on our values. But before we do that, let's create a new void called print and add it in after our void loop like so. And let's move our previously created print with our X map, Y map and SW state in there so that we can easily call for it. Now we go back to our void loop, and instead of just calling the void print, let's create for the SW state a previous SW boolean like so. And let's create an if statement to check whether the values have been updated or not. If it has, we update our previous SW state and then we will call the void print like so. Now we do the same for X and Y by firstly adding in the integers. And next up, both if statements. But since X and Y tend to shift between some figures rapidly at the middle, like you just saw, we'll add in an extra check like so. Now let's try to run our program. And as you can see, the joystick now only updates after a big change has been made. Please consider checking out my Patreon page as well, that would be awesome. There I upload all of my code with in-depth explanation of each video I ever created on this channel. Link for that down below or on screen now. So that's it for today guys, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell notification so you won't miss out on the next video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye world.